Welcome to the Viking Age podcast, the official podcast of thevikingage.com. We do this every Monday night at 6:15 p.m. and every Thursday night at the same time right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. And if you miss it, we got you covered in podcast form the very next day on Apple and Spotify. But however you listen, make sure you're liking, subscribing, giving us a good review because we never want you to miss a new episode. My name is Schad. I am a contributor at the Viking Age, as well as Zone Coverage and Bring Me the News. On your right is my co-host, Adam Patrick, who is the managing editor of the Vikings podcast. And Adam, trivia is more of your thing. The Vikings did not play yesterday. So how about we discuss some of the things that happened around the NFL and maybe a couple of hot takes I got here.
Sounds good to me. I do have, it's not trivia, but a kind of a random fact that I found out today doing some research for an article that in 2004, heading into week 8, the Vikings were 5-1, the Packers were 3-4, and the Eagles were 6-0. Of course, we know this year the Eagles are 6-0, the Packers are 3-4, and the Vikings are 5-1. So that's just a coincidence, but I thought it was interesting. And the Packers went on to win the division. The Vikings got in the playoffs still at 8-8 with the wild card. That was the shoot the moon playoff game, and the Eagles were the number 1 seed in the NFC. So we'll see how that folds out this year.
And we all know how that season ended with going to
Philly
in Philadelphia, and our star receiver got mad and demanded. Well, he didn't demand a trade. It was Red McCombs more saying, "Screw you guys, we're getting rid of Randy Moss."
Yep.
I guess before we get started, I feel like I should pour some out for you after your Padres got bounced. You know, that's what's in. The goose did not get loose.
They beat the Dodgers. They beat
Bryce
the Dodgers,
did not lose. Definitely. I don't know, but yes.
Yeah. It's all right. They did it. They got as far as they did without arguably their best player on their roster. So I mean, now they'll have expectations next year. And I mean, I'm not a giant baseball fan, but it was just fun because the whole city, we haven't had anything to cheer about since the Chargers left, really. And San Diego State's all right in football every year, but they're not. It's not going to capture the whole city like the Padres did. But it was fun. It was a good time. They beat the Dodgers, and I think a lot of people can still be excited about that because the Dodgers were supposed to win the whole thing.
Yeah, in a landslide. We were supposed to have the Yankees-Dodgers World Series, and that didn't turn out.
Nope.
So instead, we have Phillies, who I guess we all know our feelings towards Philadelphia, and the Astros, who probably have some kind of like
who do you root for?
You root for football season. You root for this to end, and I don't know. Like Minnesota fans have like nothing to cheer for anymore. It's all dead. You know what else could be dead? The Green Bay Packers, because oh my, was that a game to watch yesterday, losing to the Washington Commanders 23-21. It is possible that the Vikings won without even playing yesterday because the Packers had just 232 yards of total offense. They had 38 yards rushing. The Commanders held onto the ball for 37 minutes. Jair Alexander, who is making $21 million this year, requested to shadow Terry McLaurin, and it did not work out because McLaurin had 5 catches for 73 yards and a go-ahead touchdown in the third quarter. Hey, Adam, you want some trivia? Who did the Packers take ahead of Terry McLaurin in that year's NFL draft?
When was he drafted?
I did not. This is all like I know what the answer is, but I don't know.
Is it Gary?
Impromptu.
Rashawn Gary?
He's not Rashawn. He was the first round pick. Terry McLaurin was a third round pick. You want to take another swing?
Amari.
I think you have
Rodgers?
the right draft though.
It
was not Amari Rodgers.
Damn.
He looks pretty rough too.
Yeah.
It was the 2019 NFL draft, where the Packers took Jay Sternberger ahead of, who treated Aaron Rodgers like a stepdad because he just wanted him to be happy and proud of him. And that didn't happen because he wasn't very good. Actually, Jay Sternberger actually tweeted after the Packers took him, like, I am shocked the Packers didn't take Terry McLaurin. And then all of a sudden, that happened.
So is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers very much wishes he had Terry McLaurin right now because he had He basically went to Checkdown City on Sunday, which is not anywhere near Suplex City, I believe, but 23 of 35, 194 yards, 2 touchdowns, a crisp 5.54 yards per attempt. Aaron Jones had 9 catches for 53 yards and 2 touchdowns. And after the game, he said, "This is the best thing that could ever happen to us." He was probably high on drugs because he takes drugs. And oh yeah, the Packers play the Bills on national television next week. So with the loss, the Vikings now have a 2.5 game lead in the NFC North. So my question for you is, are you still concerned about the Green Bay Packers?
I wish I could say no, but there's too much season left to feel too confident, to feel overconfident about the Vikings winning the North. Also, because we know the Vikings' history of, just because they started this well doesn't mean it's going to end as well. But this is a new regime. Hopefully, things happen differently. But we've seen the Packers go on runs in the past where they just win a couple games in a row and they start to heat up. They start to find their groove. This is a team that's won 13 games in like the last 3 years each year. So it's not like, and they have a lot of the players that were from those teams besides Devontae Adams. So they can win, but I don't know what's going on with them right now. I enjoy that they're losing, but and and we still have a lot of questions about the Vikings. We don't know. A lot of people have a lot of questions about the Giants and how legitimate their start is. Well, I think a lot of people feel the same way about the Vikings because all their games have been pretty close, and there's a couple of them that they've been pretty lucky. They, playing against the Saints and they get the double doink, and beating the Dolphins, escaping out of there, and escaping the Lions, and the Bears, getting that strip of Amir Smith-Marset, now a Kansas City Chief. Yeah, I'm not. It's nice. It's nice to have like this. They have I guess the Vikings have like some leeway to they can make a mistake or two here, but they cannot put their guard down and be like, all right, the divisions are it's easy, easy from here. They still have plenty of tough games on their schedule. They still have to go to Green Bay, you know, in December or is it January? Late December, early
Mhm.
January.
It's
Um,
actually New Year's Day.
yeah, it's not going to be fun. It's going to be cold. I
Yeah.
think it's a night game, so it's going to be cold. So it's fun to watch the Packers lose always, especially in this fashion where they're not supposed to. It's fun to watch Taylor Heineke beat them, who I believe is 6-3 in his last 9 starts. So Reds, not whoa, Commanders. Maybe
Cincinnati Reds. Love the Reds.
yeah,
Big Joey Votto guy.
Commanders. Maybe play him because he actually throws the ball to Terry McLaurin. But now I'm kind of worried about the Commanders in 2 weeks here. A little frisky, a little frisky.
They're feeling pretty good. Once upon a time, Aaron Rodgers said RELAX. Now he's saying AYAHUASCA ayahuasca because he's high and on drugs, just like the rest of the Packers.
It's a
There
plant,
is
though.
a
It's a plant.
power struggle going on in Green Bay. And you know what happened the last time there was a power struggle? Aaron Rodgers wanted to kick Mike McCarthy's ass, and he wound up running him out of Green Bay. The Green Bay Packers, I don't have the cap number up there, but Luke Braun tweeted it. So I'm just gonna talk until I actually find it.
Okay.
But I mean, the fact that the Packers basically sank their, hitched their wagon to this guy at this point when he's on drugs and he's sitting there with his guitar and he's like that one guy in your college dorm. You just been like, oh, gotta get to class. And really, you were just going to go play NCAA 14.
Mhm.
I finally got it pulled up. So the Packers right now have Aaron Rodgers signed through 2026. That is his age 43 season. Next season, he carries a cap number of $31.6 million. Less than Kirk Cousins, not bad.
Yeah.
2024, that goes up to $40.7 million.
Ooh.
2025, it is $59.3 million. And in 2026, it is $53.4 million. A little bit less. So maybe that's not that bad. And if they decide to cut him in 2026, they save $30 million against the cap. So that would be pretty good. But, when the Vikings beat the Packers in week 1, they were without Alan Lazard, they were out David Bakhtiari, and they were without Elgin Jenkins. And that's a bad team when those guys are down. But you look at the rest of this team, like this is just a bad team in general. Like look at their draft picks. I got it pulled up right now. So you got Jair Alexander. This is since Brian Gutekunst took over basically. Actually, no, that wasn't a Gutekunst pick, I believe. Last 3 years, Jordan Love, AJ Dillon, Josiah DeGuara, Kamal Martin, John Runyon Jr., Jake Hansen, Simon Stepniak, big Simon Stepniak guy, Vernon Scott, Jonathan Garvin. Next year, Eric Stokes, Josh Myers, Amari Rogers, Royce Newman, I almost call him Turdell Slayton, close enough. Shamar Jean Charles, Cole Van Lanen, Isaiah McDuffie, Kylan Hill. This past year, Quay
Just
Walker,
making up names.
Devontae Water. I know this is like the random Madden generator. Christian Watson, Sean Ryan, Romeo Dobbs, who's Devontae Adams 2.0, but can't run a proper route. Zach Tom, Kingsley Engabare, Tariq Carpenter, Jonathan Ford, Rasheed Walker, Samori Toure. They had 4 7-round picks. Rick Spielman would be proud. This team's not good.
No.
This team sucks. Their quarterback's high. They can't and you know what? It would be totally proper if Aaron Rodgers just rose from the dead next week and beat the Bills. Like he is basically the Vikings version of like the Undertaker, because like wrestlers would always try and like stuff him in a casket, light him on fire, throw him off a cliff, run him over with a semi. They did everything except for shoot him. And every time he'd come back and like the casket would be on fire and he'd like kick out the door and he'd go and kill everyone. Like this is basically Michael Myers. For those of you who don't speak wrestling, Aaron Rodgers is like Michael Myers to the Vikings right now, because at the end of the season, I don't know. Is Matt LaFleur going to go to Aaron Rodgers and finally be like, you're right. The offense is too complicated. We don't have the weapons right now. We're going to run the hell out of the ball with AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones, because that's basically what they should do. But I don't know. I am a little worried, but I mean, I think that the Vikings have built a big enough cushion and have a schedule with enough winnable games where, I mean, we talked about it last week. If they win 10 games, which I think they should, they'll win the North, because the rest of the division is that bad.
Yeah. I think I saw something yesterday where Aaron Rodgers hasn't thrown for over 300 yards in his last 10 games. So, when do we
get the Adderall out?
When do we start to point the fingers at him? I mean, he's not playing well. What do you say? 5.5, average yards per attempt yesterday he had. Like that's on him. He's not trusting his receivers. I don't know if, that's more on him or on them. It seems like after every game he's throwing them under the bus. I mean, like, they have to get better at this. We have to get better at this. There's not a whole lot of, saying, that falls on me or whatever in his press conferences. It's a lot of like, the defense has to get better. The receivers have to get better. The running backs, the offensive line. And he just, conveniently leaves out the quarterback. But a lot of this comes down to him. He's the one who he's the guy who makes the decisions. He can audible out of plays to make the better decisions, and he can throw downfield if he wants. Like, how often have we seen the Packers just even like try and make plays down the field this year just to even just get like a pass interference? How many times has Aaron Rodgers done that in his career where he just doesn't even matter if the guy's open? He'll just throw it down the field because he's like, oh, I'll either it'll be incomplete, he'll catch it, or I'll get a flag. And I haven't seen any of that this year. It seems like, I don't know if he's already checked out, like he's ready to retire. I've seen some of those rumors floating around, like he's probably just going to retire after this year anyways, which would be like, then why did you even come back and sign an extension? Which I believe if he retired, the Packers would still be on the hook for like a boatload of money anyways. I don't know. It's still early. It is still early. They're not as good as they were the last few years. That's they already have as many losses as they had last year, so that's pretty clear. But yeah, I don't know. because I feel like there's a scenario where the Vikings go on like a mini losing streak,
Oh.
and the Packers win a few games in a row, and it's like, oh no. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm not ready to throw them off to the side and be like, who cares about the Packers?
It's almost like the Packers have switched spots with the Vikings.
Correct.
Like the last couple of years, the Packers have won 13 games. You're like, how are you winning? How are they winning these games? They're playing, I guess. And like now it's like in the Vikings, we're just like, we got to get back to 500. We're in this hole. Like we got to get going. There's another level, and they never got to that level. So I don't know. I mean, it is very interesting to look at the Packers, but right now they're not a playoff team. So let's look at the teams that do matter in the NFC right now.
Hold on. Do you think they're any better with Devontae Adams? Are they 3-4? Does he make that much of a difference?
They might have an extra win or two.
Yeah.
Maybe they're 4-3. Maybe they're 5-2.
Because I don't think their defense is playing that great.
No, it's not.
So, and it's supposed to be like heading into the year that people were like, oh, it's gonna be like top 3 defense, and then like,
but they're throwing the ball more than running it right now. And
which is so dumb. They have two really good running backs, and you're like,
they do, yeah, and a good offensive line. Like,
yeah.
It makes very little sense what they're doing right now.
They also
like it's like a power struggle, basically.
They also don't have a bye until week 14.
Good luck.
That is a long time away. They don't even get like a middle of the season to be like, let's figure things out. No, they got to wait till week 14 to get a bye. That's crazy.
That is a long time. The NFC right now, though, very wide open. Because right now Philly was on bye, just like the Vikings. They're at 6-0. The Vikings are 5-1. They are the 2 seed right now because they're a division champion, and the New York Giants are not. Seattle is 4-3. Seahawks country, let's ride. And Tampa Bay is. They look a lot like the 2010 Vikings right now.
Yeah, I saw you tweet that yesterday. I was like, oh, that's really good.
Yeah, they might be something I'm working on right now. But Tampa Bay is 3-4 right now, and Tom Brady looks like he'd rather. I don't know.
Yeah, but
I don't think he wants to be home. I don't think he wants to be.
Who's playing well in that division though?
Nobody.
Like they got to do. They don't have to do anything. They could win 8-9, probably win that division.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, you probably have a sub 500 team winning the South. Then the rest, the wild cards. You get the New York Giants at 6-1, which, I mean, they're kind of like the other version of the Vikings, where it's just like they're 6-1, but are they good?
They're a Saquon Barkley injury away from being like not in the playoffs. If he doesn't stay healthy for the most of the season, what do they do? Who do they have? They don't have.
Yeah,
they don't have anyone else.
Like I was watching yesterday, and I'm just like, Daniel Jones is just capitalizing that Saquon Barkley's in the backfield.
Yeah.
It's like he has 100 yards rushing because everybody's keyed in on Barkley, and it's like, I'll just run 20 yards this way.
They have a good they have good defense. They have good pass rush. I'll give them that. But like, yeah, if Saquon Barkley gets injured, they're done. They're done.
Yeah, absolutely. Dallas is 5-2. They got Dak back, but they didn't look very good against Detroit.
No.
Sadly, I don't think Dan Campbell's going to make it in Detroit, by the way. I don't know. I'll have to go back to the power plant working for Mr. Burns.
What do they have, 6 points in the last 2 games?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not looking too good. And that high-powered offense seems to have taken a step back. The LA Rams are 3-3. That is, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know about them yet.
It feels like that 7 seed is going to be a lot like last year, where it's like a pillow fight. Like, no, you take it, you take it, you take it. Because right behind the Rams are the 49ers, who we'll talk about in a little bit, the Falcons, the Packers, the Commanders, and this week's opponent, the Arizona Cardinals. So, I mean, you look at this, it's just like, this conference is wide open. Like, even Philly, they've looked dominant, but they've had stretches where they've needed a last second win against Arizona. They played 3 bad quarters against the Cowboys at home. Like, there have been moments. I will put it that way. They were down 14 points to the Jaguars at home in that hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
So
they
I
didn't
don't
score
know.
any points in the second half against the Vikings.
Yeah.
So yeah. This NFC is right. They're the Eagles are clearly the best team because they're undefeated and they've looked like the best team. I don't think there's a team in the NFC that has looked any better than the Eagles. And then like the Vikings and Giants, they're on the path to the playoffs. They just have to, stay healthy for the rest of the way. The Cowboys look pretty good. Outside of those 4 teams, I wouldn't even be surprised if, like, the Falcons made the playoffs. I really
Yeah.
wouldn't, 'cause, with the way that the NFC is this year, I really wouldn't. The Seahawks, I like the way the Seahawks are playing. They just play really well under, Pete Carroll. He's a good coach, and Russell Wilson leaving is it makes it very clear that Pete Carroll is a good coach because
I
Geno Smith is balling out.
Yeah, I think we're seeing why Russ got booed in that
Yeah,
Monday game
yeah,
because I think his success went to his head.
yeah.
I think, with all the Subway commercials and Let's Ride and all the weird kind of quirky things, it's kind of like,
Dangerous.
yeah, I eat Subway subs with the wrappers on.
Were
Okay.
you the one that told me that it has, like, bell peppers on it?
Yeah,
That's
so
the
so like the spiciest thing is that there's banana peppers on the
banana
Russ Witch or whatever it's
oh,
called, the Danger Witch or
yeah,
whatever it's
yeah,
called.
yeah, yeah, banana
So it's
peppers.
just like, oh, okay, dude.
Not even
Like,
jalapenos.
I don't know. Like Pete Carroll's just got him playing well, and
Yeah,
I don't know if it'll last. I mean, DK Metcalf went down. That's not a good injury for them. But I
no.
mean, Kenneth Walker, he
Yeah,
was my number one running back coming into the draft. I liked him
yeah.
more than Brees Hall,
He
even
looked
though
good.
Brees Hall looked
He
fantastic
looked good
before he
too.
blew his knee out.
Yeah.
But I mean, Kenneth Walker's a beast. They got a really good offensive lineman in the
Geno's
draft.
playing lights out.
I mean, they're going to be in position, to maybe make the playoffs. And I mean, they're a
Yeah.
team. Maybe you look at next year as a team that's one quarterback away from, being a real contender in the NFC.
Maybe they have him. Maybe Geno is the guy.
They could.
Yeah.
Let's get this back to the Vikings. Just wondering, I hate the conversation that has consumed bye week because it's just like, are they legit? Let's look at the schedule. Like, what's going on here? But what do the Vikings need to do in your eyes to be legitimate contenders in this mess?
Just keep winning. Like, it's the NFL. Like, I think there's a stat I saw recently. Like the games in the NFL this year have been by a margin of like 8 points, like an average of 8 points, and that's they're on a record pace of like how close all the games are. Games are just close this year, and what it comes down to is good coaching. Not shooting yourself in the foot. Good discipline, making plays on special teams, so like getting turnovers. And that's all the things the Vikings are doing. So if they can just keep up with what they're doing, which I feel like they will, they're going to have the same coaching staff. They're not going to. Their offensive coordinator is not going to quit. After 5 games this year, like he might have in the past. So I feel confident that they can keep this going. They have some tough games coming up on their schedule. But aside from Buffalo, I really don't think there's a team on their schedule where I'm like, oh, they can't win that. They can win even Buffalo, with the way that they've started, they can go in there and win. A lot of things have to go right for that to happen, but they can go in there and win and beat Buffalo. So, just keep doing what they're doing. Like, don't there's things that need to change or improve, but don't tweak things too much to where what was working in the first 6 games isn't able to work in the next 11 because they're 5-1. Like,
Mhm.
your loss is to the best team in the NFC. What more what more do you want them to do? So like and the people who say like how legit are they? Well, we just talked about it. Look at the rest of the NFC. How legit is the rest of the NFC? Like how you
Right.
don't have to beat like I look back to 2017 when the Vikings went on their run or whatever, and that was a year where a lot of things were kind of weird in the rest of the NFL too. Like Aaron Rodgers was hurt and a couple other things too, and it's like sometimes you just need those breaks to go on a run. And at the same time, if the Vikings aren't legit, who expected the Vikings to be legit this year anyways? No one was expecting them to be like a contender or whatever this year. Maybe the Vikings did, but no one from the outside did. And this was just looked at like a year where they can kind of improve some things, and then next year is going to be the year where they're like try and contend for championships. So the fact that they're doing this already is good, but yeah, just keep doing what they're doing.
I think Kevin O'Connell had a quote last week where he said something along the lines of, I think he was asked, like, do you feel like your team has lived a charmed life? And he's like, well, no. Like, and I mean, we've won these games, and he's right. He's right. These are games that the Vikings did not win in years past,
Right.
and I mean, they don't have to give them back. Like, I hate that cliche, but it's not like the Vikings need to turn around and be like, oh, sorry, we beat you guys. Here's your win back.
Minnesota nice.
Totally fine. Like,
Oh.
I mean, I think O'Connell believes he has a process. And I mean, I was kind of wondering, like going into the bye, I'm like, do you simplify the offense or not? But then I had Cy Amundsen on my podcast, the Homer Horn, which you can check out right now on Apple and Spotify. But he said, he's like, this is what the Vikings wanted. You don't simplify this. Like, that was the narrative. It was, hey, we can win more games with a more modern offensive scheme and lack of a better word, nicer head coach. Like,
Yes.
He is. He's very, at least out in the open, he's very friendly. Maybe behind closed doors, he's a little more intense, little, whatever. But as far as the media goes,
he's nicer than Chris Thomason.
There is no Hell in a Cell match coming between Kevin O'Connell and Chris Thomason right now. And here's the thing. I'll lead this into our final point because it's very interesting to me. So I think that going into the second half, we need to see something better from the offense. I think we need to see just more consistency. And I started to wonder what would wind up happening if they don't show that. So let's say, maybe the Vikings kind of stumble a little bit. They win the division. Let's say they get bounced in the first and second round. Mm-hmm. What's going on in San Francisco is pretty damn interesting to me because the 49ers lost to the Kansas City Chiefs 44-23 on Sunday.
Lost. They got pounded. Yeah.
Yeah, they had a 13-0 lead, and then the Chiefs were just like, we're the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So that'll happen. No shame in that, really. But on Thursday, right after we logged off the air, the 49ers traded for Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
And now they are left with 3 picks in the 2023 NFL draft. So my best Brian Windhorst impersonation is, why would they do that? Because think about it. No team has ever gone and been like, hey, we're running back away from this. I mean, maybe like the Cowboys when they drafted Zeke Elliott 4th overall, and that's looking great.
The Vikings
maybe the Jaguars. Yeah. Or even, when they took Adrian Peterson in the first round. Like, teams don't say that anymore. But the 49ers are a team with a pretty good infrastructure. They have great offensive line. They have great weapons. They have a young and dominant defense that's pretty cheap right now. They have an offensive mastermind, although I think Kyle Shanahan is an egomaniac. But outside of that, pretty good coach, or at least people seem to think so.
Yeah.
I think the 49ers are a quarterback away from being a legitimate contender, especially in this conference. Jimmy Garoppolo threw for 303 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception on Sunday. I don't think Kyle Shanahan likes Trey Lance. He's a lot like the kid that got the big Christmas present, and now all he wants to do is play with the box. That's why Jimmy Garoppolo is in there. Plus, Trey Lance broke his ankle. But even before that, like it was weird. Yeah. So they're probably going into the disgruntled quarterback market. Do you want Aaron Rodgers right now? Maybe off of name brand, but not so much. Do you want Tom Brady right now? Probably not. So who else could they get? Who does Kyle Shanahan love more than any other quarterback? Kirk freaking Cousins. And I know there are some people out there that are going to be like, well, you just want Kirk to leave. You're a hater. If this offense doesn't get better, and if the Vikings don't get where they want to go, I mean, Kwesi could look at this and go, Kirk, this isn't it. We're doing the same thing where it's like Kirk's checking down and we're not getting big plays downfield and everything else. I mean, even if they're winning, that's what happened to Alex Smith in Kansas City. And I mean, that's the situation everybody wants to bring up, like me, when they're just like, you want to upgrade at quarterback. But I mean, at some point,
Flacco.
maybe you look at Kirk Cousins and go, he's not a fit for this offense. Like,
remember Joe Flacco
that's nothing.
Too, with Lamar Jackson. That's another one.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a situation where Kirk sucks. Right. It's just that he might be better suited for a Kevin Stefanski offense, a Gary Kubiak offense, where he's not the fit for a
Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, offense. Kevin O'Connell type of offense. Yeah. And the 49ers last year had a front row seat to this.
Yep.
Because the Rams saw the same thing and they went and traded for Matthew Stafford and they won the Super Bowl. So when they make a move like this for Christian McCaffrey, I don't think this is about this year's team. I think it's about next year's team. And I think the 49ers are going to, if it's not Kirk Cousins, they're going to go for somebody else. But I mean, that's the main point I'm making, is that the 49ers are preparing to go full Rams this offseason. And the last 10 games, or 11 games, the last 11 games for the Vikings are going to be really important. So if Kirk comes out, looks like himself, and starts throwing touchdowns, he might get another fully guaranteed 1-year extension at the end of the year. If he doesn't, I don't know. I think the Vikings are going to listen, because next year's quarterback class, it's a buyer's quarterback class with Bryce Young. You got CJ Stroud, you got Anthony Richardson, you got Will Levis. You have all these quarterbacks, and not all of them turn out, but I mean, there are some years to get a quarterback and there are some years not to get a quarterback. So, I mean, I got tired of the whole bye week conversations.
Yeah.
And I started, when I was watching the Niners, I thought about that, because I think it's a possibility, and it makes these last 11 games really interesting, especially when we watch Kirk Cousins in the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think it's not something you can't rule it out. Another reason, because of let's see, the connections between the 49ers and the Vikings new GM, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, who used to be an employee of the Niners in their front office. Same thing with Kevin O'Connell. He also was working for the 49ers. So they have that connection as well. We know the relationship between Kyle Shanahan and Kirk Cousins. They worked together in Washington. They liked each other, what they did. So you just can't rule it out. When I just blurted out or whatever that the Ravens brought in Flacco, or brought in Lamar for Flacco, it made me think that, oh yeah, Lamar Jackson's going to be a free agent next year. What if the Niners are like gearing up to go after Lamar Jackson and then just have this ridiculous running offense and just have Christian McCaffrey in there and Deebo Samuel? So that could be an option too. But yeah, you can't rule it out with Kirk Cousins, and especially if this season like goes awry or whatever, the Vikings are going to be looking to just pretty much start over, because there's a lot of older guys that are their contracts expire at the end of this season. There's some guys you can move on from that it's easier to get out of their contracts after this season. So if things don't continue to go as well for the Vikings as they are, then yeah, I could see that happening. If they win the division and make the playoffs, I don't think Kirk Cousins is gone until 2024 at the earliest. I just doesn't mean that they won't draft a quarterback. I don't think that's out of the question, regardless of what happens this year. Even if they win a Super Bowl, like, I don't expect them to win a Super Bowl first off, but even if that happens, you still have to invest in your future, and I think that's not the question. But yeah, you can't rule it out. There's always going to be a connection to Kyle Shanahan and Kirk Cousins. Every offseason, Mike Florio is going to write about the possibility of the 49ers trading for Kirk Cousins like he does every year, because there's that connection between Kyle Shanahan and Kirk Cousins. It's never going to go away. And yeah, like you said, but Yeah, like you said, they have 3 picks next year in next year's draft. Who are they gonna send the Vikings for Cousins? Because they're gonna have to send some players over or trade some players to get some picks if they want to trade for Cousins. Like, it can happen. Somebody traded for Baker Mayfield this past offseason. So let's not say like, oh, who's gonna trade for Kirk Cousins or whatever. Someone traded for Baker Mayfield. So let's not.
Well, look at the trade between the Saints and the Eagles this offseason. The Eagles had 2 first-round picks.
Oh,
Then
yeah.
they wound up trading one to the. So I mean, I think we'll see a lot of trades that you see in the NBA and NHL where
Stocking
there
out.
may be, there's salary dumps.
Mhm.
Like we'll trade you, we'll trade you this guy if we get a first round pick back, and then they go ahead and they do that. And I know a lot of people. One person in particular wrote, because this is an article at Zone Coverage. You want to see all my arguments, I laid it out there. And I mean, it's not that I want to see Kirk Cousins get traded. Like, I don't like, it was more just kind of
It's speculation.
Yeah, the 49ers are probably going to look for a quarterback. And I mean, the first guy they're probably going to try is Kirk Cousins right now. I mean, it doesn't even have to be the 49ers. Like the Vikings might get a call from the Indianapolis Colts, who just benched Matt Ryan.
I don't know if they're going to trade for any more quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think Jim Irsay is just like, yeah, we're tanking, man. Like, get Sam
Maybe
Alexander out there.
Maybe the
Let's go get
Giants.
Bryce Young.
Daniel Jones is a free agent next year. Maybe the Giants think like, oh, if we get Kirk Cousins, we can do some things.
So. Like, another thing we got to think about here too is that the Vikings have to pay Justin Jefferson next season.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, trading Kirk throws $18.75 million in dead money onto the cap for next year. That's according to Over the Cap salary cap calculator. But it also clears $15 million in cap space for next year and $13 million the year after that. Heading into 2024, Over the Cap salary cap calculator estimates the Vikings have $113.4 million in cap room in 2024. Nice. So I mean, you fit that underneath. I mean, you have some void years that kind of cuts into that a little bit, but I mean, it's something to consider. And I mean, it's going to be very important for this offense to get going and for Kirk Cousins to show, hey, I'm a quarterback. Even if my weapons aren't getting open, like Kevin O'Connell kind of hinted at after the Miami game, like I can run this offense. Because if he can't, I mean, they got to think of another situation. So I don't know. I mean, and like another argument I saw was pretty funny. It's like, well, look at all the game-winning drives that Kirk has had. Look at all the 3 and outs Kirk has produced as well. And I understand you're not going to have a touchdown on every drive, but the Vikings have a problem when it comes to 3 and outs and short drives.
Yeah, why do they need?
It's going to bite them.
Why did they need those game-winning drives?
Yeah, because they didn't put
offense didn't do enough to not need those. Yeah, like. But can you trade away Kirk after these last few weeks with him putting on all those chains and just looking so icy? Can you get rid of that?
That would be the most Minnesotan thing ever. Like, Minnesota sports fans cling on to their players. Like, so I remember in like the 2010s, I don't know how you say it, but like, Twins fans were just like, no, Danny Valencia and Trevor Plouffe are the future. They're hanging out with Christian Ponder and Kyle Rudolph at the Twins game or at this game, and Josh Duhamel or whatever his name is. Yeah. What's his name?
Josh Duhamel.
Yep. He's a Viking. He might watch this, actually. I don't know who he is. I don't know who he is.
He's in like Transformers.
He's in Transformers.
Yeah.
But like, other than that,
he's married to Fergie.
He's married to Fergie?
He was.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I do not know who Josh Duhamel is. Like, I know who he is. I just don't.
I think he's from North or South Dakota. So
if Josh Duhamel watches this, he should like comment and be like, dude,
go for it.
Get him on the show. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Now you'd be like, who are you? Straight up.
Said we mentioned Trey Lance in there a couple times. Are we at the point now? Should they already make him, or somebody else make him into like another Taysom Hill? Like, is that the role that he's probably best for, or is there like still a chance that he could become like an actual quarterback? I know he can throw. He can throw far.
The fact that he was a first-round pick, I think somebody is going to be like, we can fix him. I mean, that could be another thing too. That's another way to get a first round pick. Maybe some team looks at Trey Lance and goes like, yeah, we'll try it.
Panthers
Yeah.
will do that.
Colts.
I don't know. I don't know about the Colts. I think they're gonna be like, I think part of the reason they benched Matt Ryan, well, he got a shoulder injury, is because they're like, if we're not gonna be good this year, we might as well just be like really not good and then get an actual quarterback in the draft. So, or maybe what's his name, Sam Ellinger, maybe he's actually kind of decent. Frank Reich is pretty good. He can get pretty good amount of stuff out of a quarterback. So who knows? But yeah, Kirk Cousins still on the table. It's gonna be on the table. It doesn't matter. Listen, it doesn't matter how well he plays this year. Teams trading for him is always going to be on the table, just because teams are always looking for that quick fix to get a quarterback. Everyone looks at the Rams now, like, look, they traded for Matthew Stafford, so we can do that too. Look at the Broncos; they're hating life right now. Colts are hating life. Commanders are hating life. Like, all these teams are like, we're just going to be just like the Rams. It's like, not really. You don't have Sean McVay or Aaron Donald on defense, so it's not really going to work for you. But yeah, yeah. So I was going to be on the table.
Before we sign off, I just want to remind people, in case you think it's crazy or far-fetched or whatever, I once said Carson Wentz was going to be traded and people thought I was an idiot. And he has been traded twice since I wrote that article.
He's probably going to get traded again.
Yeah, he'll probably get traded again. He'll probably have another team, or he'll just be doing Shields commercials for the rest of his life.
Now Ron Rivera's like doubling down now, like, he's my guy. It's like, buddy, you
picked a pretty hill to die on. Bud.
You said that Cooper Rush is better than him. Okay, let's chill out with because it's not a coincidence that every team that Carson Wentz has been on the last 3 years has like there's been like some sort of controversy around him. Mm-hmm. It's not a coincidence, and it's not like, I don't know if it's him being, not a good leader or not a good locker room guy, or it's just his personality is just like really just doesn't get along with the locker room. But if you looked at the Commanders' social media yesterday at all or anything, like, all of their players were like hugging Taylor Heineke and like rooting behind him and like being like, I want to make plays for this guy. He's got that dog in him. And it's just like, yeah, there's clearly a difference between Taylor Heineke, who's fun to root for anyways, because he's underdog, and Carson Wentz. But yeah, and we also didn't mention somebody got arrested on the Vikings during the bye week. We didn't talk about that.
Yeah, I didn't have Oli Udo getting arrested on my bingo card. Somebody got pretty lucky there.
First time in 2 years, Vikings got arrested.
Doesn't matter. Like, honestly,
no. What are they going to do anything? Do you think they're going to do anything to him?
I don't know.
It's just I know I'm saying it's just a misdemeanor, but he still got arrested for kind of being dumb.
A dumbass.
Yeah. That's like rule number 1 of the bye week. Don't get arrested. Come on.
In big red letters on the
Mike Zimmer's grease board. You get arrested at 3 a.m. What are you doing out at 3 a.m? Like, you have stuff to risk. Don't do that. Okay.
Nothing good ever happens at midnight.
No.
Just remember, kids. Nothing good happens at midnight. But that is all the time we have for the Viking Age tonight. We do this every Monday and Thursday night at 6:15 p.m. Central Time right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. Like, comment, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you do, we are on Apple and Spotify, so you can check us out in podcast form. I am Chris Schad. He is Adam Patrick, and we'll talk to you on Thursday night.